All right, so this is called PHPMyAdmin, as you see, which is a web tool for managing MySQL databases. Now you could be wondering, hold on, why didn't we just use, the MySQL, what was it, Management Studio, whatever it was, right?
Workbench.
Workbench, exactly, right? The reason is because web developers generally use this tool, right? Not everybody, but most people use that tool because it's web-based. It allows you to access databases that otherwise wouldn't be accessible because of security settings. Because it runs actually the PHP scripts that are generating the web pages are running on the same machine as the MySQL server itself. Um, and besides, also it's a good idea for you guys to know other tools. So this will be the required tool for you to use during this course, right? It's not an option. You guys need to get comfortable with it. It's a nice tool. It does not have all the features that you have on the desktop, on the MySQL Workbench, right? But the differences are not important for us. So MySQL Workbench, for example, gives us stored procedures or triggers. We have absolutely no need for that kind of things in web applications. Very rarely we would do things like that. So this will be absolutely sufficient for everything that we do. Okay. All right. So let's do, now I think we're ready to create our first application. So let's do that. So I told you before not to clone your repository. Well, now it's time to clone. Okay, now don't go ahead of me here because we need to do it the right way. So go to, well, you can click on here, clone source tree, sure. By the way, VS Code also understands Git. I don't actually use it. I use source tree as a separate tool. But if you want to figure out how to use Git in VS Code, I'm okay with that too. I'm going to go with source tree though, and I want you to do the same, at least for today. Okay, later you can figure out VS Code if you like. Okay, so now in source tree in the cloning process, the important thing here is that the location here, this needs to be adjusted, okay? This cannot be documents. So do browse, and we want to go to C, XAMPP. You have to go inside of XAMPP, htdocs, okay? And then select folder. Okay, and then in here, because that won't work because htdocs already exists, in here you're going to type lowercase IPD23 because that's what you guys are as a group, right? You guys are IPD23. Please keep everything lowercase. Guys, this is the general rule for all web development. You keep everything lowercase, no spaces or special characters used in the names. Okay? Okay. Because why? The reason for it is that on Windows, uppercase and lowercase are the same in terms of file system, right? If you create a folder with a specific name, whether it's uppercase, lowercase, it is actually considered the same folder. But when we actually upload our websites to hosting solutions, which we will, those hosting computers, servers, pretty much always run Linux, which is a Unix systems. On Unix systems, uppercase and lowercase file names are different, right? So A uppercase and A lowercase are considered two separate different letters. So if you end up naming things uppercase, lowercase, uh, you might after uploading your application to a server, you might find certain things don't work properly because in one place you used a mix of uppercase, lowercase, in another place you used lowercase names, all of it lowercase, and that's just going to create problems. So please keep it simple. Keep everything lowercase, no spaces or special characters. Okay? All right. In terms of names of files and folders, okay? In terms of variable names, we're going to talk about it. That's different. But in terms of names of files and folders, everything is lowercase, no special characters. All right, so we're going to go C, XAMPP, htdocs, IPD23. It must be this location, no other. The only thing that can change could be the drive letter here if you install it somewhere else, but it must be exactly that location. Inside of htdocs, we're going to create IPD23. All right. And then once you do that, unfortunately, the name of the tab will change to IPD23, which is not very convenient for us. So I recommend you change it to something like, PHP, right? Or in my case, I'm going to do 2021 IPD23. PHP, right? So this is the name of the tab that will show up on top here. Okay, that's it. Clone. Let's clone it. All right, so when you press open in Explorer, right, you should see this, right? You are czamp htdocs IPD23, right in here. Right, so the IPD23 directory was created. Excellent. Okay, let's create our first application. So you have your VS Code, right? We're going to create a new, let's see. Let's do open folder. Yeah, we're going to do that one. Open folder. Yeah, so do this with me. File, open folder. And let's go to czamp htdocs IPD23. And in here, we're going to create a new folder. We're going to call it day01 first. Now note the name, no spaces, everything lowercase. Please keep it this way. Okay, I don't want you to be going, okay, day01 first. Yeah, please don't do that. Okay, so day01 first, everything lowercase, no spaces, no special characters. All right, so I created, right? Then select this folder, right? Open, there we go. That's it, here's our folder. So let's create a new file in it. We're just gonna do a little test here. Okay, create a new file. You guys are doing this with me right now, right? New file, we're gonna call it first PHP, of course, appropriately. First PHP, press enter. And then you're gonna do in here, this one is a funny one, exclamation mark and press tab. There you go. You see, you can type really fast. All right, so one more time. Empty document, exclamation mark, and press tab. There you go. Does it work? Yeah, okay. All right, good. All right, so I'll see if I can make it a little bit bigger. So that's an HTML document, just a very basic one. We're gonna add some PHP here. So we're gonna say this is some text, right? And then we'll say, let's switch to PHP. Echo hello from PHP, semicolon, and get out of PHP. There we go. So that should do it, right? Save the file, and then we'll try and access it. Just really go on a separate line here. There we go. Something like this. We always have to access things from a web browser using the web server. In other words, here's what does not work. And this is what people sometimes do. They go in here and they say, okay, here's my file. I'm going to open it with my web browser. So that's what they do. In there. Right, there you go. So they say, well, let's open it right here. And they say, well, it doesn't quite work. I mean, it's, you know, it's weird. Like I just saw the contents of the file. That's not what I want, quite what I wanted. Right, that's not the way to do it. So what you want to do is you want to access it from the web browser. So the way you do that is you open a web browser and you type localhost : 8888/IPD23 and you present it. Then you see the list of directories here. You go into day01 first, click on first PHP, and there you have it. Right. The difference is, of course, that this time you're actually executing the PHP code. In other words, your web browser calls the web server, which then loads the file, the PHP file, executes all the PHP stuff in it, right? And then it sends you back the response. You see, the web browser does not see the PHP. PHP is purely server side. If you want client side, the only language that is comparable would be JavaScript. That is the only language we have to do these kind of dynamic things on the client side, right? PHP is purely server side. Web browser has no idea that some content was generated by PHP, right? If I look inside here, if I look at the page source, look what I get. I get whatever was generated by PHP over here, right? So there was echo hello from PHP. So it says this is line, this is some text, this is some text, and then hello from PHP. This chunk of text was generated by PHP. Okay, any questions so far? So let's create a new file here. So the same thing, you do press plus there and gonna say, let's do hello PHP. Same thing, exclamation mark, tab to get the basic document, right? And this time, what we'll do, we will, let's see, we will greet somebody using their name. So you know from the tutorials you guys were watching that you can provide parameters to scripts in the URL. So the way to do that is essentially the idea would be, let's actually save this, save them all. The idea would be that in here, I would say hello PHP, then I would say question mark, and I would say, let's say name is Jerry. There you go, something like this, right? And then the name is a parameter I'm passing to the script, right, in the URL. And I want to take it and I want to use it to perform the greeting. I want it to say, hello, Jerry, nice to meet you, something like that, right? And if this parameter is missing, I also want my script to give me an error. Okay, so we'll do just that. So as you know from, actually let's do the mini solution first. So let's do the actual echo. So we'll do echo hello, and we're gonna need the name. So let's do variable name is gonna be taken from super global get of name. We always pull out data from super globals mainly because it's very inconvenient for us to access them. And yes, we have to open PHP here. Right, and then once we pull it out, it's much easier to actually use them. So we'll say echo name, nice to meet you. There we go, something like this. Let's see what happens. So if I reload, there you go, it says hello Jerry, nice to meet you. Okay, now a couple of words of explanation here. What's with this PHP thing? This is not a tag. It kind of looks like a tag, quacks like a tag, but it's not really a tag. What is that? It tells PHP interpreter to switch between two modes. You see, PHP interpreter, which is given this entire file, has two modes of operation. One is called direct output, meaning that whatever it encounters, you see from the beginning, at first it's in the direct output mode. So everything it encounters, it just sends as is, without any modification, to the web browser, right? Meaning that web browser will receive all of this text. Then it can be switched to the interpretation mode, right? So there's two modes, direct output and interpretation. How do you switch it? Well, you give it this pseudo PHP tag. You say, hey, switch to interpreting PHP. Then from this point on until either the end of the file. So if I, for example, hey, this is okay too. I can switch to PHP and never come back. That's actually fine too. We actually do that quite a bit later on in the course. Okay. But I switch to PHP and I say, hey, okay, here are some things in PHP. You see, this is different language, right? This PHP interpreter does not care what language is it. It just looks, okay, there's some text. I'm just going to send it to the web browser. It doesn't care if it's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, XML, or even some binary stuff, which it would be weird, but technically possible. It's just going to send it back to the web browser. Once it enters PHP interpretation, though, it switches to interpreting PHP language, right? And then, well, we have to play with PHP to generate certain things. So for us, for our purpose, for now, whenever we do echo, it's kind of like it's going to be sent, whatever we echo or print is going to be sent to the web browser, right? After, of course, everything was sent over here, then the echo, whatever the hello will be sent. And then we what? We exit PHP mode. We go back to direct output, right? Which means that all of this, including the new line over here, so there's a new line here, line 12, right? And then body and HTML closing tags will be sent to the web browser, which is exactly what happened here. If I look at page source here, right, that's where I got, right? Hello, Jerry, nice to meet you. Then I got body and HTML. There you go. Right, so all of this, that was direct output, and that was direct output, right? And this chunk was printed out by PHP. Okay, any questions on this? All right, I'll give you a moment to get this working, and then we'll move on to verifying the inputs a little bit. Okay, but this behavior that we're seeing here actually usually isn't desired. This kind of thing, that kind of, for me, usually when I see that on the web, that tells me that something's off with the application. Somebody wrote the code isn't too good, because yeah, this shouldn't really be happening. So what we want is we would like our script to at the very least gracefully handle the case when somebody did not provide the required parameter in the URL. The way to do that, we can actually ask, there is something called isSet. IsSet tells us if an element is present in, well, in this case, in an array, right? So I can actually check, is name provided inside of the get array. So get, by the way, what is that? That's a PHP array. Now, PHP arrays are a little bit different than Java. In Java, array was key value pairs where the keys were consecutive, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you had the index value starting from 0, and then you had the value that was stored in the array. But in PHP, arrays are associative. So they are like hash maps. There is a key and there's a value, right? So in this case, the key is the name and the value is, well, whatever the value is, right? All arrays in PHP are associative. You can actually have an array that has elements 0, 1, 2, 3, and then the next key is Jerry, right? You can actually mix and match them. They are key value pairs, okay? So this is an array, and we're going to check. Somebody's unmuted. Khalil, I just muted you. So we're going to check if this array get, which is a super global, has an element name in it. If it doesn't, then we'll display a nice message. So we'll say if get name is not set, right? Then we'll say echo error. You must provide name in the URL, right? Else, not a big fan of else in this case, but we don't have a choice. Else, do what you did before, which is extract the name from the super global and then use it to display a nice message, okay? I'm just gonna test it and I'll give you guys a moment to see how that works. So now I will reload. See, there's no parameter in the URL, reload. There you go, you see now I get a nice error message saying you must provide name in the URL. And when I do, I get the greeting. So what I want is to be able to enter something like this. Name is Jerry, and then age is, let's say, 33, right, in the URL. See, so I got two parameters now. By the way, you're gonna say, hold on, this is a question mark. Why no question mark here? The question mark separates a path to the file from the parameters, and then parameters themselves are separated by ampersands. So if I had more of those, they would be separate, more of those key value pairs there, they will be separated by ampersands as well. Okay, only the first one has a question mark. All right, so if I add age as a second parameter, I'd like the script to do two things. One is require that both, not one of them, but both name and age are provided. If they are not, it should display an error message. And then when both name and age are provided, I should see a greeting saying, hello, nice to meet you. You are, well, this many years old, right? So I'd like you to use the age here as well, right? So you would say, hello, Jerry, nice to meet you. You are 33 years old, for example, right? If the parameters were like this. Okay, so I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. right, to modify the script so that it can take both name and age as parameters and handle them appropriately. Okay, so maybe 2-3 minutes to do that. Okay, let's see where you are with this. So what do I need to do? I need to verify that I received both of them, right? Because that's the requirement, not just one, but both. So I'll say here, if what? If I didn't get the name or I did not get the age, right, then we got a problem, right? Then there is an error. You must provide name and age in the URL. Right, and then when I know both of them were given, I'll say, well, let's extract name, let's extract age. And then say, hello name, nice to meet you. You are age years old. And that should pretty much do it. Well, let's try this out. So if I go to my web browser and I have, let's just say I have just the name. See, you must provide name and age in the URL. If I have them both, right, hello Jerry, nice to meet you. You are 33 years old. A couple kind of practical things. First of all, make sure you save your file before testing. You see when you make a change here, there's a white or black, depending on your color profile, dot on top here telling you that the file is not saved. So you need to save the file. Then you go to the web browser and then you refresh. So you can press Ctrl+R, right, to refresh it. And that actually makes the web browser create a new request that goes to the web server, which runs the PHP again, so you can see what the current script will do, right? But there is no compilation here, so you have to save the files, right? The web browser and the editor are completely two separate programs that don't really communicate. So you have to make sure that the file is saved on the hard drive before you refresh it in the web browser. Okay, any questions on this at this point? Okay, so create a new file. Hello form PHP. Same thing, exclamation mark, tab. And then in here, what we want to do is we want to put a form in here that will let us ask the user for their name and age. That'll be actually nice. Okay, so we'll do the primitive version first. Okay, and then we'll talk about it. So let's do form. We'll have two inputs. Right, one will be the name, type, of course, text. Somebody's unmuted. Tom, you have a question?
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Just checking. So yeah, the type is text, and yeah, there's no value there. And then let's do just a new line, another input. This one will be age, and let's type do number. Will be fine. And we are, and then submit button, which is another input. The value is the text on the button, so let's do say hello. So something like this, right? That will be our form. So if I go to the file, hello form, there we go. I should see this kind of form. Something's wrong here. Input time. Oh yeah, double quote is missing. Try again. There you go. Right. So I should add some labels. Yeah, I should say name, age. There we go. I should do it. Let's try again. There we go. I said Jerry 33, and then say hello doesn't do much, but you see when I press on it, it actually shows the name and age up there, right, in the URL. When you actually submit, it actually does submit the information I've entered actually ends up in the URL, which is nice. Okay, so then what we want to do is we want to check if there was a submission. So first of all, we want to check if there was a submission. So if is set of get of what we have their name. Now in this case, when we have a form, it's generally okay to just check one of them. Now we have both name and age, but because it's a form, either somebody usually, and I mean, if they're submitting, they're going to submit the whole form. So checking just one is sufficient, right? So if the name was given, then I'll say something like, let's just see, echo, hi name, you are years old, right? That will do fine. And I should put a paragraph here probably, right? Because I want the HTML to be nice and valid. And that's pretty much it. Else nothing. Yeah, that's pretty much that. All right, let's try that out. So if I go back here to my hello form and I say hello, I get undefined variables. Yeah, so there's still an issue here. You see, I need to check the contents of the variables. But if I do enter, let's say Jerry33, say hello, you see, I got, yeah, still, hold on, I missed something. Oh yeah, I didn't extract it. Yeah, my bad. So I actually have to extract name is get off name, and then age is get off age. All right, let me try this one more time. So if I submit, say hello, there you go. Hi Jerry, you're 33 years old, right? And if I submit with empty, it's a little weird. Hi, you are years old. So maybe I should handle it better, right? But we'll start with this, okay? So get this working. I'll give you guys a minute or two. So this one is already in your OneDrive. Look into day01 task.txt. You're going to create file random PHP in the same day01 first folder, the same we're working with here, right? This PHP script is meant to receive two integer values in the URL, min and max. If the values or one of them are absent or are not integer values, then the script will display an error message informing of the problem. If minimum is larger than maximum, the script will also display an appropriate message. When the values are valid, the script will generate 10 random integer values in the minimum inclusive to maximum inclusive range and display them comma separated on the web page. Any questions about the task? Let's add a couple of things here to our platform. So on the left-hand side in VS Code, click on the last icon here that says extensions. Do this with me right now. So click on extensions, and on top here in the search, type PHP. Right, so you're going to see a bunch of them. The one you want is IntelliSense, this one. There's another IntelliSense, but it seems not to be maintained as well. I just checked the repository. It hasn't been updated in a year. This one, though, is actively developed. So we're going to go with this one. That's the one we used with previous groups as well. All right, so click on this, press install. It will help some, auto completion, that sort of things. Okay, that's one we're going to need. We'll also need Twig, but you know what? We're going to get to that when we get to that in the second part of the course. So for now, the only one we need the only extension we need is the IntelliSense, this one. Okay. So it should help with, formatting the code, automatic completion, that sort of things. Okay. All right, guys, I uploaded the course outline to Leia in case you wanted to take a look. Right. I'm actually going to go through this briefly. How about that? Yeah, let's do that. So no surprises here, right? We're starting today and going for until February 20. Oh, 20, that's a typo, 21st. Sorry, I'm going to have to update that. No, I'm still living in 2020. Maybe. No, but I did say winter 2021, so I just missed those two. All right. So the usual, right? Now, in terms of the evaluation, is exactly what I said, right? So quiz 1, 15%, quiz 2, 25. Then you have projects, total 45%, which is split to project proposal, which will be due next Friday when you will be starting your projects. Midway progress, we're going to figure out the date for this one. and then presentations are on the last day of the course. Quiz 2 will be probably on Monday on, let me just check the dates here, on February 22nd. So 2 days before project presentations, that's where I would like to do it. Ideally, we'll see how that goes. It could be 22nd or 23rd. Tentative date is Monday the 22nd, right? And quiz 1 is Monday, but probably we're going to end up doing Tuesday on the 9th. We'll see. For now, it's Monday. Okay, so it may be a little bit different. As I said, those days are tentative here. So the quiz 1 may happen actually here, and then quiz 2 will happen probably on the 13th class over here. Okay, the content is pretty much what you see here, which is the first 3 days. We're going to look at the PHP syntax, variables, control structure, scoping, integration with the web server, super globals, receiving values from URLs, forums, and we'll see about the debugging. We'll get to it when we get to it. Debugging PHP is a little annoying, so we try to avoid that really. Connecting to the database, tri-state form validation, create, retrieve, update, delete, and so on. So we'll see how we do tomorrow with these things. If we finish them, we'll do quiz on Monday. If we don't, we'll probably push it to Tuesday. Okay, then we have the big thing, which is the composer, PHP, Slim, Twig, MicroDB. These are the libraries I will be using. Practical application, I'm going to give you a blog to implement. Monologue is another library we use for logging. The blog will be a very nice thing to kind of give you an idea of what kind of tools you can use for your projects. Then project proposals, which will be, as I said, on Friday next week. And then you're going to work on the projects. And during that time, I'm still going to give you some information about web APIs and some other things like that. But you will be mainly working on the projects. Okay, any questions on this?
For the LinkedIn, we have to provide what contacts or
I'll talk about it later. You guys need to be done. We're not going to talk about LinkedIn in PHP course until you guys done with the previous one, which will be Monday. Once we're done with that chunk, then we'll talk about the new LinkedIn. All right, because here we have to talk about portfolio and other things. We'll take care of that probably sometime next week. We'll see if we have the time. The portfolio is what is important really here. You'll see. Okay, so that's all we had for now about the course outline. We'll take a break until noon, so half an hour, and I'll see you then. All right, so let's look at this. So we said to create random PHP, right? So I'll do a little catch up with you here. So let's do random PHP, and then let's start with a basic, right? Switch to PHP and back. That should do it. And then what did we say? We said the script is meant to receive 2 integer values, minimum, maximum. The values are absent or are not integer values. Oh yeah, I missed one thing. Would be nice if we actually had a form there. I missed this one. Yeah. So I'm gonna do this with a form. Okay, just because it's just more pleasant to the user. But let's try this. So I'm gonna put a form right here. And then we got to check for something. So we got not name and age, but we've got min and we got max, right? And min and max. Now with the type, guys, just for the purpose of the exercise, I'm going to go with text, but you should really do number, right? Because you want it to be numerical. But I'm going to do text because I want to show you verification of inputs. Okay, and I'll say generate and random numbers. All right, let's see how that looks so far. Let's go back up. Come on, there we go. Random PHP, there we go. So I say 5 to 20 and press generate, and you see my minimum maximum show up there, right, in the URL. Right, so I should be able to pull them from there when I want to generate the random number. So let's check it. So if not is set of, we said get off. I'm only going to check one here because that tells me whether the submission happened or not. That's essentially what I want to do. And then, so I'm amending slightly the task that I gave you just a little bit. And then I still need to do some verification, but let's just focus on generating the values for now, right? So I'll extract, so if the submission did happen, I'll extract the minimum and maximum. See, this is why we do the extraction, so that we don't have to type this weird, $, underscore, gets, square brackets, parentheses, excuse me, the quotes, it's just a lot of weird characters there. So that's why we create variables instead. Min and max, right? All right, so then let's assume they're okay, right? How do we generate random values? Well, let's just ask Google PHP random in between two values. Yeah, that should do it, right? So we have a method called run. By the way, W3 Schools has some nice ideas, some nice example, that's true, but the reference documentation is always in PHP.NET. PHP.NET is fantastic because it describes all the functions, all the methods that we have in PHP. And on top of that, at the bottom here, you see not only examples, which is nice, but also there's often user contributed notes, you see, and these are fantastic. There is sometimes you're looking for a solution, how do I do this? And then you go to PHP.NET and it shows a function that's kind of like, yeah, seems like I could use it, but I don't know how. You scroll down to the user contributed notes and suddenly somebody had exactly the same problem or almost the same problem that you're having, and they found a solution. They actually wrote the code, right? So that's pretty cool. I am not saying that you should just blindly copy the code from here, but yeah, sometimes you just copy the code because it's good. Okay, so in this case, this isn't sufficient. So they say what? What's the minimum maximum? Highest value to return. So this one is inclusive, right? Lowest value to return, highest. So yeah, you see, this one is inclusive. So it's a little bit different than what we had in Java or C#. All right, so let's do that. So we'll do for, oh, I don't have the tab. Oh, that's so bad. All right. Excuse me. All right. So let's do, I was hoping for auto completion here, but let's do for, let's just do I. Start with print 0 as long as I is less than 10, I plus plus, like the usual. Right, nothing strange here. We'll do let's do val equals round, I think it was round, yeah, minimum maximum. So we'll do min max, and then we'll print it out. And we said to print it out how? Comma separated. Okay, comma separated. So I'm just going to print it out for now. So I'll do print or echo. We'll define, and we'll beautify it in just a moment. Okay, so let's go with this for now. Let's go back to, where were we? That's not it. This is not important, not important, not important. Done. There we go. Yeah, we'll need it later today. And we were, okay, there we are. All right, so here's my min and max. Let's just go back to the clean slate. All right, so there is undefined index. So I missed something. It says if is set. Oh, if it is, yeah, I missed that. Else. Let's do that. So echo error max. Yeah, let's do that. Not a big fan of this. We're gonna get rid of this in a moment, but let's do the simple version first. There you go. Please enter min and max. Okay, I'll do that. So I'll say 1 and 10, generating random numbers. There you go. Here's my 10 random numbers, right? All right. Now, if I want to make it a little bit nicer, I could say, well, here, this should be a paragraph. So I'll do echo, open a paragraph or a div or whatever the container would be, right? Here, I'm going to close it. And in here, I'll do the same thing I did before, which is I'll decide what I should, you know what I could actually do, printf. It actually exists here too. So I could do actually percentage, we'll have to check if this still behaves the same way, percentage s, percentage d, I think it might be I actually, we'll find out in a moment. And we'll say, well, if I is a 0. Then I'll display nothing, otherwise put a comma. Space would be nicer. And of course it's a colon here. There we go. And then the value, right? Just to make it more readable, I might put it into parentheses, but it's not really strictly required, right? So I have a conditional here that tells me whether I should put a comma in front of the value or not. And let's just see how this behaves. Parse error. Print. Line 26. I missed some curlies somewhere. Oh yeah, semicolons missing. There we go. Let's try this again. Okay, looks okay. Seems fine to me. Right, so I get the comma separated 10 random values. All right, so now let's improve it a little bit. A few things here. Quite a few, actually, quite a few. Let's do, I'm going to create a random better. Actually, you know what? 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to rename those. Hang in there. Come on. Rename 1 first. Yeah, just so we have them in order in which we actually did them. 2 hello. And then we did 3 hello form. And then we're going to do 4 random. And now I'm going to do 5 random better PHP. All right. So how is that going to be better? Oh, it's going to be so fantastic. It's going to be like a massage, like 90-minute massage. All right. So let's see what else we can do. So first of all, when we do forms, usually the forms should not be displayed again and again when we are how would I say that? When we're submitting a form, usually we don't want to see that form again. In this case, though, I would say it's justified. It's okay. We could actually show the form. I think it's okay because you kind of you want to see the form again, and you could submit it again. You could put new values. Let's say here I would say, you know, I changed my mind now. I want 20 to 200, right? Press again, and oh yeah, I need the random. I changed the name of the, let's try this again. So I go to my random, right? I say 1 to 20, I generate some, and I say, you know what, now generate 2 to 200, generate some. So in this particular case, I would say it's actually justified to keep the form displayable every single time, but it's not going to be the case for, well, most of the things we do. Right? Most of the things we do, it won't be the case. So let's do the rest. So now validation. Now, if, so this one is checking, am I, no, so this is what I'm checking, if submission was not received. So not submission received, right? That's what I'm getting here, no submission received. So if no submission was received, I say echo, display the error, I'm done. That's true, that's fine. Now what I would do, I would actually redo it. And what I would want to do, I would want to display a list of errors if there were any. So for example, I could say, minimum must be less than less or equal to maximum, right? Or I could say minimum is not an integer value, because here I'm not even checking it, right? You guys notice? If somebody puts minimum as, oh yeah, ABC, right? Not working, right? This is a poorly written script, right? If I see errors like this, I'm like, yeah, somebody is just a beginner, right? This should never happen. So I need to do quite a bit of verification. So the way I usually do that is I collect problems and then I display them in lists. Kind of like when you're submitting a form on the web. Very often, if there are problems, you're going to see a list, you know, correct this, correct that, and then you're going to see the form again, right? So you can re-enter or correct the values, right? So that's something we generally want to do as well. Okay, so let's see. So I would start with this. I would say I'll create an array here. Now you guys are not typing this. This is just me, right? I'm going to call it error. Excuse me, error list. Let's call it, right? And I'll create it as an empty array, right? So we'll have. Let me just see this. Yeah, I will do. Yeah, so I'll say error array. And then at the end here, what I will do is I will decide whether there were errors or there weren't any. So actually, I will do something like this. I will say if error list. And what I'll do, I will actually do a for each loop to display them. Right now, the for each loop looks a little bit different than what you were doing in hang in there. Just checking my notes here. If I'm not missing any steps, just want to make sure I don't. No, I'm okay. All right. So what I'll do is I would do a for each loop, right, to display the arrows, right. So I'll say for each, and I'll say it's a little, the syntax is a little bit different than in Java. The parameters are kind of reversed, right? Because here we have the list first and then the singular variable second, and in C# and Java, both this was in the opposite order. So just be careful here, right? So we'll do for each, and then we'll say, well, if we have a list actually, then we should display it as a list. So let's just do UL, right? Unordered list is usually okay. Echo UL close, right? And then here I would do echo. Let's just do list item error list item. Something like this should do. Yeah. Okay. So if there were errors. Now, here's the interesting thing. You see, when I did this, this is something that's not possible. The syntax is not possible in Java, because what I'm actually doing is I'm checking if the error list is not empty. But you don't see it, right? I could actually do, there is a count which tells me, it counts the number of elements inside of the array. So if I said if the count is not 0, meaning there are some errors, then do this. I could do it, but normal PHP programmers would actually never do that. Really, I don't think so. They would just do this. And the reason is in PHP, the meaning of, let's try this, booleans. All right. This is very important. That's going to trip you up. A lot of the times I'll be looking for those mistakes when I'm grading your quiz. Actually, both quizzes, right? Guys, Boolean values. There is a false, which is obviously false value, Boolean false value. There is a true as well, right? But integer of value 0 is also considered false. See, PHP is a loosely typed language. So far, except for JavaScript, which was long ago, you guys have been using pretty much exclusively strictly typed languages. Strict means you knew the type was declared when the variable is declared, and then it never changed again, right? And if you wanted to convert one type to another, you have to do it, well, usually explicitly, right? But in PHP and also in JavaScript, there are certain rules. So for example, in PHP, an integer variable or variable that has integer in it, value 0, if you test it, if you say if like this, and that is a 0, then that's going to be considered false, right? Same goes for floating point. Floating point 0.0 also considered false. This is what trips people up. String with one character in it, character 0, also is considered a false. Okay. And this is the one that is important for us right now. An array with 0 elements is also considered false, right? That's why I don't have to measure here explicitly, check how many elements there are in the array, right? This checks if the array is not empty, right? Because array with 0 elements is false. Array that is non-empty is considered true. Okay. So if errorless, I'm checking if the array is not empty, right? If it's not empty, then I'll display my UL, then go over the list, show all the errors, close UL, I'm done. Else, else, well, my error checking succeeded, so I'll just, do what I need to do. Okay. All right. Now, what I need to do above here is I need to verify my values, right? And then if there is a problem, I need to put it in the array list. So how do I do that? Well, first of all, I need to check if there was a submission, right? So if I think I just did that. If I say if my get of min, right, is set. Actually, if it is not set. So if there was no submission, then what do I do? Well, that's an error, right? Wouldn't you say, right? Somebody submits, there is a form here, right? There was a form right here, and somebody puts nothing in it, right? Or the values are empty. That's no good. Right? We shouldn't allow it. So if there is no submission, then we'll say error list. Now, guys, there's an append to a list. You could actually do, it's called array push, and then you give it an array. So I say to the error list, right? Append at the end, right? Enter values for submission, right? Something like this. Okay. And that's it. You could do that, right? And then I would say, actually, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then if there are values, then we got some other work to do. Okay. Or the other notation is a little bit different. You could also do, this one looks a little weird, but it works just fine. You can actually do this. Like that. Okay, that both will work. They both do the same thing. They do append to the list. They add at the end. All right, so let's assume that I have submission received, right? Submission was received. So I'll extract min and max, and then I need to verify them. The weird thing about PHP is that some things are very easy to do and some things are a little cumbersome. For example, checking is PHP variable integer, right? Is a little, I mean, there is an isInt, which can be confusing. Guys, isInt checks whether a variable is of type integer or not. It sounds like exactly the right thing to do, but it isn't. I know, it's just what? What do you mean? That's exactly what we need. Well, not quite. It checks the type of the variable. But the thing is, when things are coming out of your get, these are all strings. This is just text. And then PHP will parse it to the integer or floating point or Boolean even when you ask it to, which can be problematic. So in this case, the is integer will tell me if the variable is an integer type. I know it's not. Min and max right now, right here, when I extracted the values, they are strings. Now they may contain text that looks like an integer. I hope they do, right? But they're actually strings. So unfortunately, this is useless to me for the most part. It doesn't do what it sounds like it does, right? Now there is a good one here called isNumeric, which you see it finds whether a variable is a number or look, numeric string, right? So is it a string that contains something numerical? So that's closer, right? But unfortunately, it doesn't tell us whether it's actually an integer value, because it could be a floating point. Okay, so I'm going to spare you the whole explanation. I mean, this is the main part of it, and then what we really want is that is something a number, but also is something an integer. So what we want is, oh wow, somebody did a different implementation. Okay, fascinating. I have not seen this implementation before. Let's see. Okay, I got a simpler one. So actually what we want is we will use a function here. We'll actually create a function here. We'll say function is int, I'll just create it. It takes a value and it either will return true or false. And it will check is numeric. So does it look like a numerical value? Now numerical could be floating point, right? Could be an integer, could be floating point. So I'll check, well, is the value numeric, right? And then also I need to check if it's an integer. Now, how do I do that? It's actually not hard to do. What I want to do, so I'm going to say and. What I want to do is I will cast the value to an integer. Now, what happens if you cast, remember, what happens if you cast a floating point to an integer? You floor it, right? So for example, if the value was 3.3333, right? If I cast it to an integer, I'll get a 3. Would you agree? Yes, of course. But what if I have a 3 and I cast it to an integer? I still have a 3, right? So you see, if I cast a value to an integer and I still have the same as the original value, therefore, that means that it is an integer value. And that's what I'm going to return. So I'll verify, does it look like a numerical value, right? And also, after casting it to an int, is it still the same value? Meaning, is it really an integer? This one checks, is it numerical? And then, is this an integer? Now you could say, hold on, why couldn't we just do this? There are cases where this will not give you the right answer. Okay, I don't want to get into this, but yes, we actually need both checks. Okay, it actually, so this is a 3-minute explanation, but it actually took me probably a good half an hour once when I was actually testing it out years ago to find this out. So isn't, yeah. So we'll check. Now, are they integers? So I'll say if isn't minimum not, right? Because I'm looking for problems. If it's not an integer, then I'll say error list, right? Append minimum must be an integer value. Right. And I'll do the same thing for maximum, right? Maximum must be an integer value, right? What else do I need to check? I also had some requirements about the actual value. So now that I know that they are integers, I need to check the maximum cannot be smaller than the minimum. So if maximum is less than minimum, that's a problem, right? Can't be. So if the maximum is less than minimum, then I'll say again error list append, and I'll say maximum must not be smaller than minimum. Okay. Any other requirements we had? Let me check if I told you about anything else here. No, I think that's it. I think that's it. So now, so I run, so I'm checking, did I get a submission? If not, prompt the user to do that, right? This is not ideal. We'll do better next time, but this is just the first example. Usually we don't actually do this part, not exactly. And then we say, well, submission was received. Let's check. Are the min and max integers? And then are they, in the correct relation between each other? If they are, all good, right? The error list will be empty. You see, if I don't enter any of those ifs, then the error list allocated in line 19 remains an empty array, which means what? This is false, and I end up in here, actually generating the random numbers, right? If it is true, then I will end up, well, seeing the values, right, in here. Excuse me, seeing the list of errors in here. Okay, let's try this out. Let's try this out. So we were in right here. All right, so let's do it again. So this one I don't like very much. It actually tells me that there's an error. No, not exactly. Yeah, it's not best behavior, but it will do for now. So let's say from 5 to 50. Generate the random numbers. Yes, I got them. Okay, good. What if I say ABC to 5? Okay, so there's an issue there. I think my isInt, seems like my isInt didn't quite work. Hang in there. Yeah, and there's a problem around. So for some reason, this is weird. So my is numeric. Did I mistype it? Hang on, I'm just gonna copy this from my notes. No, seems like it's the same thing.
It's is underscore.
Is I didn't have the underscore. No, I have underscore. Is no.
Yeah, but on the
Where?
here where
Okay, so if you did is int, it probably doesn't work properly. Now I'm having some issue here. Hold on. So let's just let me just try this again. Oh wow, that is a shocker. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a fix me here. Okay, this seems to returns true on text for some reason. That does not make sense to me because this one should then return false. Yeah, I'm gonna test it. Yeah, you guys, we're gonna move on for now. Sorry about that. Maybe there's some small mistake here, probably, right? Because it's not doing what it was intended to do. I'll find out what it is and I'll get back to you on this. Okay, but that's the idea. So you would collect the problems, right? You will collect the errors, right? And then if there are any, so let's say if I do, what else we had? Yeah, the is int doesn't work properly. But if I did, let's say 10 and 1, there you go, right? Okay, something is not, oh, yes, okay. That is funny. It's kind of like buying a new car and driving the old one. All right, look what I did. I'm still on the old one. See the for random. I need to do random better. Right, wrong script. That's it. All right, wow. See, I was about to take the engine out and check why is this car not performing like the new car I bought and I'm driving the old car. Thank God I just, okay, good. So that explains it. So let's just do ABC 55, right? And there you go. You see minimum must be an integer value. I'm getting that error, right? Which is good. So if I do ABC, there we go, right? Minimum, maximum must be integer values. Yeah. Okay, good, because I was really worried. So if I do, let's say 555, there you go. Here are my 10 numbers. If I do the reverse, let's say, right, the maximum is too small, I get an error. Beautiful. Okay, now it's okay. So the code was fine. Yeah, and as I said, the is int is not what you want in this case. I know it sounds like it sounds right. It doesn't work. It doesn't check the contents because the type of the variable is actually string, right? But it only checks the type of it. It doesn't check the actual content of it, regrettably. And you probably noticed that PHP will automatically convert things on the fly when necessary. It looks at a string. If you use a string in a numerical expression, it will convert the string to a numerical value and then perform the numerical operation. So yeah, we usually don't explicitly convert things to integers, like using the cast. We usually don't do that. That's very rare because PHP will, parse the string whenever it needs to an integer or floating point automatically. So we don't do that. Do you see I never actually cast the min and max over here, or over here? I don't. It would be strange if I did. I mean, I could if I had a good reason, but normally no programmer would do the cast. They are strings, right? But in here, they are used as a parameter to a function that requires numerical values. So they'll be converted to numericals if they can be. I just need to make sure that they can. Okay, any questions on this? Any questions on this?
Gregory?
Yes, go ahead.
Instead of having made your own function, could you have used the filter var function from PHP?
Good question. I haven't tried. You tell me.
I seem to have worked on mine. It takes two parameters, the first one being your variable, and then the second one in all caps, filter underscore validate underscore int.
Yeah, quite likely, actually. I would have to test it, but that sounds actually promising. You see, I didn't see this one. Interesting. I think you might be right. I think you might be right. This might be another one. Yeah, filter var with the integer. Yeah, I like that actually. Hold on. Let's see if let's test it. So if filter var, give it a min and require its, so now guys, with the filter var, people get confused about it a little bit. What you want to do is you want to make sure you understand the usage, right? What is the value returned? And be very clear about it, because again, this is a loosely typed language, so you got to be careful about comparing things. Okay, so now let's look at the return value. Returns either the filtered data, you got to be careful here, or false if the filter fails. Now you got to be careful, very careful, because what if the data is a 0? See, we just said that a 0 is considered either a string containing 0 or the 0 as an integer is considered false as well, right? So it will, if I just do, let me just see that. If I do this, then this will not let me enter a 0. Okay, let me prove this to you. Okay, you asked a really good question. I love it. It's a little out there, I mean, but it's a practical one. It's a good one. All right, let's do it again. All right, so now let's just test the normal case. So 5 and then 55. Okay, it works fine, but look, watch this. Between 0 and 10. What? 0 is an integer value. It is, but we have a special weird case here because the filter validate int will return the value itself if it fits the filter, right? That's what it says. It returns the filter data. What is the filter data? A 0. And what is 0 considered as a Boolean? It's considered false, right? Therefore, it will look like it failed. So what's the remedy? Good question. Okay, Gregory, now you took us off the deep end. What's the triple equality sign? You guys should remember that from JavaScript. I know you know, every class I have, they hate when I say, do you guys remember? Excuse me?
It compares the types.
Yep, it compares the value and the type. So this, if this is a 0, right? Technically it could be, considered a false, but so the value would be considered false, but the type doesn't match. Yes, I have, logically speaking, a 0, which is a false on the left, and I have a false on the right, but this is not really a false. It's a 0 considered a false. So it means the types don't match, right? And here I'm saying, yes, we can use the filter var, but it has to be exactly false and nothing else, right? So let's try this again. I was right here. All right, let's do it again. So I'll clean it up. Let's enter. So let's just make sure it still works. So 555 seems okay. Go back. And then let's do 0 to 5. Voila. Now it works, right? Allows me to enter 0. I really like your solution.
If we keep it empty.
Go ahead.
If we keep it empty.
If you keep it empty, yeah, it still fails, which is good.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems to be working perfectly. I love your solution, much better than this one. Yeah, like it very much. Let's keep it. Okay, so I'm gonna just change this. You see, every time I teach this stuff, it gets better. All right. So you guys getting the benefit of all the previous groups, and the next group will get benefits of what we've created here. This is good. All right, so max filter validated, excellent. But you need to do the triple comparison here, the triple equality sign, because you're comparing the value and it has to match the type exactly. Okay. All right. It's an intense introduction today, wouldn't you say? Right. Now you understand why I asked you to watch the videos ahead of time. All right. By the way, your homework, part of it is to finish watching any videos that you haven't watched yet. That's going to be part of your homework. I should actually note it there. All right, so the homework will be, well, to finish this one, of course, and then finish watching any videos you haven't finished watching yet. And I just uploaded, let's just see that. Right in here, there we go. All right, so there is a, there are two files here. There's something called Your First Blog. Don't worry about it too much. This is a bigger project. I don't think we're gonna do the whole thing. No, well, definitely not as a homework. I just want you to implement login. So actually this one is not, yeah, this one is not applicable to us today. It's the other file, the website mock, this one. All right, so here you have registration, right? So implement the register. So I'll just add it to your notes here. So implement register PHP and login PHP forms and their validation forms. Validation only for register PHP. There you go. Yeah, let's do that. Because there is nothing you can validate about login yet because we haven't actually discussed databases. So there's nothing you can do there. You could create the, actually, you know what? Let's just do register. Yeah, let's just do it. No database yet. So the register looks like this. There is a form here with the desired username, email, and passwords, which is repeated, right? And then you register. There are some requirements which are described. I think that was in the other document. Let me just double check here. Oh, there we go. Yes, that's the part. Okay, so there we have it. Register user ad. Username must not already exist in the system. You can't check for this one yet because we don't have databases yet. Username must be at least 4 characters long and no longer than 20 characters. Username must only consist of lowercase letters and numbers. Password must be at least 6 characters long and must contain at least 1 uppercase letter, 1 lowercase letter, and 1 number or special character. It must not be longer than 100 characters. Passwords must match for the user to be created, right? Upon successful, there we go. Upon successful creation, that's okay. So let's just grab this and validation rules. Just add it there. So we said user must be, name must be. Just double check that. So we had username, right? So we have username, right? Username must be at least 4 characters long and no longer than the allocated database record, or no longer than 20 characters. Let's just stick it this way, right? Username must consist only of lowercase letters and numbers. Password must be at least 6 characters long and must contain, okay, password must match. And yeah, there's one missing here. Email, there we go, here's one missing. Email must look like a valid email address. Now, why do I say must look like? Because I can't really verify if the email is valid without sending an email and then requiring user, for example, to click on a link that was received to activate the account. I actually have to use the email to be able to tell if the email is valid or not. So the best I can do, I can verify. There is a way in PHP very easy using the filter, the var filter. I can say use, yeah, filter var. I think that's what it was, right? Filter var, yeah. Use filter var to do that. And let's simplify this a little bit. Let's just do, yeah. So the password has to be at least 6 characters long, so between 6 and 100, and contain at least 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase letter, and 1 number. I think that should be enough. Okay, so you can't really register yet because you don't have a database, right? But but you can definitely implement the form and perform the validation, right? Oh yeah, on failed submission, you should display the list of issues. Back to the user, and show the form again. I think that should be sufficient. Okay. Any questions on the homework? So make sure you read the sessions. We'll do that certainly. And the file uploading, we may or may not do that tomorrow. We'll see how things fly.